Lieutenant Marcus Hale stood at the edge of the landing pad, his boots crunching on shattered metal and scorched earth. He looked out at the ruined cityscape of Karshar Prime. Towering spires once gleaming under twin suns now lay broken, their jagged skeletons reaching skyward like the bones of some ancient beast. Ash drifted through the air, coating his uniform in a fine gray dust. The wind carried distant echoes of artillery fire and the low hum of alien war machines moving through the streets below. Marcus adjusted the straps on his combat pack. He was 19 years old, fresh from the academy, and this was his first true battle. Until today, his experience had been limited to simulations and classroom drills. Now, standing on a real battlefield, he felt a cold knot of fear in his stomach. Yet at the same time, he sensed a strange thrill, an awareness that he was precisely where he needed to be. Behind him, the transport ship's hatch closed with a hiss. His squad emerged one by one. Sergeant Nguyen, a veteran of 5 campaigns, Corporal Sato, quick with a joke even under mortar fire, and Private Alvarez, wide-eyed and trembling. They all looked to Marcus, their newest officer, for orders. He cleared his throat and lifted his voice. "Form up on me. Keep your eyes open. Move when I give the signal." The squad fell into position. Marcus led them down the landing ramp and into the rubble-choked streets. The smell of ozone and burning fuel was sharp in his nose. He raised his hand, signaling a left turn, and they slipped past a collapsed sky bridge. Every step set off tiny clouds of dust and debris. A sudden burst of plasma fire struck the wall ahead, sending sparks and concrete chunks flying. Without thinking, Marcus sprinted forward, throwing himself against the wall and returning fire with practiced precision. The rest of the squad followed his lead, finding cover quickly and answering his shots without hesitation. In that moment, Marcus felt his fear fade and his confidence grow. He realized he was not alone. His team trusted him, and he would not let them down. They pressed onward, pausing at the intersection of 2 shattered avenues. Marcus studied a holo map projected from his wrist. Rebel forces had taken control of the northern sector, and the alien Queen's main base lay just beyond this block. Their mission was simple: breach the defenses, secure a prisoner, and learn the Queen's next move. But simple did not mean easy. Corporal Sato leaned close and whispered, "The air is thick with danger, sir. You sure you're ready for this?" Marcus met his gaze and smiled, though his heart pounded. "We all are. Stay sharp." As they advanced, flares ignited above them, bathing the ruins in red light. The squad's footsteps echoed in the empty streets. Marcus felt every sense sharpen. He was a rookie on his first mission, but he stood taller than any veteran in that moment. He was determined to prove that a single human soldier could make a difference, even on an alien world ruled by a powerful queen. And so, under the smoldering sky of Karshar Prime, Lieutenant Marcus Hale took his first true step into war. Lieutenant Marcus Hale and his squad made their way through the ruined corridors of the rebel stronghold, each step echoing on cracked metal flooring. Orders crackled in his earpiece. Escort the prisoner stasis pod to Command Node 3. Secure any intel. Ahead, a hover pod floated on a faint blue field. Inside, the shape of a being lay motionless, wrapped in biogel. No one on the mission manifest recognized the design. It wasn't human, nor did it match any known alien prisoner. Marcus felt a shiver at the sight. He glanced at Sergeant Nguyen. The veteran's jaw was tight, eyes fixed on the pod. "Keep them close," Nguyen whispered. "If that thing wakes up wrong, we're in trouble." Marcus nodded and raised a hand to signal his squad to form a protective perimeter. Private Alvarez gripped his rifle so hard his knuckles turned white. Marcus placed a steadying hand on the pod's housing. The gel casing glowed softly, pulsing like a quiet heartbeat. As they moved through narrow passageways, the pod bobbed gently on its field. Sparks rained from damaged conduits above, and the squad ducked under low-hanging beams. Marcus kept one eye on the pod and one on his holomap. They needed to keep to the side tunnels to avoid rebel patrols. Suddenly, the gel shifted. The shape inside rolled, as if studying its surroundings. Alvarez froze. "Sir, it moved," he stammered. Marcus held up a finger. No sudden moves. The rest of the squad relaxed, but only a little. They reached a collapsed junction where rebels had set up an ambush. Marcus crouched, finger on his comm. "Sergeant, point defense ready," he ordered. Nguyen trained his plasma rifle on the dark tunnel. "On your mark," Nguyen answered. Marcus counted seconds in his head. Then he stood and shouted, "Move!" The squad surged forward, pods humming. Marcus led, firing precise shots to clear the rebels' cover. In the crossfire, a stray plasma bolt struck the pod's base. The gel cracked, sending a ripple of light across its surface. Everyone halted. The gel seeped like liquid glass. From inside came a soft hiss. Marcus felt his heart thump. He stepped closer and saw fine, iridescent scales beneath the gel. The figure's head lifted, neck curving like a regal statue. He knelt, keeping his weapon lowered but ready. "Easy," he murmured. The being's silver eyes met his through the shattered gel. For a long moment, they simply stared at each other in silence. Corporal Sato broke the spell. "Sir, we should move. Now." Marcus took a deep breath. He motioned the squad to resume escort. As they set off again, the prisoner sat up slowly in the pod, dripping biogel onto the floor. Marcus's mind raced. Who was this alien? And why had no one warned them of her power? Clutching his rifle, he led his team onward. Every step weighted with new uncertainty and the strange promise of secrets yet to unfold. Lieutenant Marcus Hale led his squad through the dim corridor toward Command Node 3. The air was thick with dust and the scent of burning circuitry. Every footstep echoed on the metal grating beneath their boots. Behind them, the stasis pod's field flickered as its power core struggled to stay online. Marcus glanced back. The pod's gel shell had split open, and now the alien sat upright, limbs unfurling like a predator awakening from deep sleep. They reached the junction where a heavy steel door blocked their path. Marcus tapped his wrist console. "Override code 5243. The lock clicked, and the door slid aside with a hiss. Beyond lay a circular room lit by pulsing red lights. Data terminals lined the walls, each one streaming rebel communications. At the center stood a reinforced cage, empty, save for the faint hum of its force field. Before they could step inside, alarms blared. Over the speakers came a gruff voice in the Queen's native tongue. "Intruders. Kill them." Marcus raised his rifle just as consoles flared to life, projecting a holomap of the nearby corridors. Little red triangles, dozens of them, moved toward the command node. The rebels had sent reinforcements. Sergeant Nguyen barked, "We're surrounded." Marcus steadied himself. "Form defensive perimeter around the pod. We need that prisoner alive." The squad spread out, rifles trained on the entrances. The alien woman uncurled fully, her tall frame sliding from the cracked gel. She brushed off sticky residue and met Marcus's gaze. Her eyes shone with cold intelligence. A squad of rebel fighters burst through the nearest door, plasma rifles raised. Private Alvarez answered with suppressing fire, forcing them to duck behind overturned crates. As the firefight raged, the alien queen, now standing free, stepped forward. Marcus called, "Don't engage her." But before he could finish, she moved like a silver bolt, disarming one rebel with a swift kick and tearing another's rifle from his hands. Each movement was precise, almost graceful. She snapped the weapon like twigs, sending bits of metal skittering across the floor. The rebels faltered, stunned by her strength. In an instant, she swept through their lines, toppling soldiers with a wave of her hand. The red lights flickered as the rebels' power packs shorted in midair. Within seconds, the corridor fell silent. Marcus lowered his rifle, breath coming fast. The squad stared in awe at the queen as she returned to her feet. Her chest rose and fell as she looked at them calmly, as though deciding their worth. Finally, she inclined her head to Marcus. "You saved my life," she said in halting galactic common. "I owe you debt." Sergeant Nguyen exhaled and muttered, "I've never seen anything like that." Marcus shook his head, still in shock. "We need to secure this node and get our data." He signaled the squad to move forward. The queen strode beside him, her presence both reassuring and strange. As they reached the central console, Marcus plugged in a data spike and began downloading rebel orders. Red lights shifted to green. Doors opened deeper into the base. The download bar crept higher. Outside, distant gunfire signaled more rebels on the move. Marcus steeled himself. With the alien queen at his side, human and alien stood together against the tide. And in that tense moment before departure, he realized their fates were bound, whether by duty, by honor, or by something neither of them yet understood. Lieutenant Marcus Hale stepped away from the terminal as the data spike finished its download with a soft click. The red lights in the command node flickered back to their steady glow. Behind him, the alien queen, now unmasked as Ajerin, watched the holomap, her silver eyes reflecting schematics of hidden tunnels beneath the base. "Your intel shows a secret route," Marcus said, pointing to a narrow corridor marked in green. "We can slip through there to reach the palace vault." Ajerin nodded. "It leads under the royal citadel. Few know of it." She ran a hand over the carved symbols etched into the wall. Symbols that matched the ones on her broken armor. Sergeant Nguyen squinted at his own holo display. "Enemy patrols guard every main corridor. This tunnel is our best chance." He raised his voice. "Move out." Marcus led the way, Ajerin beside him. The squad followed single file, weapons ready. The tunnel entrance lay concealed behind a smashed console. As Marcus pressed a small latch, the panel slid aside to reveal a dim stone passage, cool air drifting up from below. They descended narrow metal stairs into a vaulted corridor, lit by bioluminescent fungus clinging to the walls. The air smelled of damp earth and something faintly sweet. Marcus paused to listen. Far above, he heard distant footsteps and muffled voices, rebel soldiers searching for them after the breach. "Keep quiet," he whispered. The squad pressed on. The tunnel twisted and curved, sometimes low enough to force them to crouch. Ajerin moved with surprising grace, her tail brushing the wall. Marcus stole a glance at her profile. Regal horns curving back from her forehead, scales that shimmered like moonlight. He felt both awe and responsibility. This alien sovereign trusted him. After several minutes, the passage opened into a wide cavern. At its center lay a narrow bridge spanning an underground river of glowing blue water. Stalactites dripped overhead. The squad halted at the cavern's edge. Sergeant Nguyen tapped his comm. "Enemy thermal sensors may catch us crossing. We need to move fast." Ajerin crossed first, her claws clicking on the stone. Midway, she paused and turned to Marcus. "Stay close to me. I will shield you." Marcus swallowed and stepped onto the bridge. As he reached her side, the water below pulsed brighter. As though sensing their presence, he gripped his rifle tight and hurried forward. Sergeant Nguyen and the others followed without pause. Behind them, the tunnel entrance sealed shut. Ajerin had snapped it closed with startling strength. No alarms sounded, but Marcus knew they could not linger. On the far side of the cavern, a tall iron door barred their path, etched with the same ancestral symbols he had seen before. Ajerin placed her hand against the cold metal. The door trembled and swung open, revealing a spiral staircase ascending into torchlit halls. As they stepped through, Marcus felt a shift in the air, an ancient power humming beneath the stones. He looked at Ajerin. "This place, it feels like home to you." She gave a small, rueful smile. "It was once my throne room." Marcus nodded, determination steeling his heart. "Then let's reclaim it. With the alien queen leading and the human soldier at her flank, the unlikely alliance pressed onward into the heart of the rebel stronghold, where destiny and the fate of two worlds awaited. Lieutenant Marcus Hale climbed the spiral staircase with quiet resolve. Torches flickered along the stone walls, casting long shadows that danced as they passed. Each step took them closer to the throne room high above, the very heart of the rebel base. Marcus felt his pulse quicken, but he kept his breathing steady. He did not want to show fear in front of Queen Azuren. At the top of the stairs, they emerged into a grand antechamber. Pillars carved with ancient glyphs lined the hall. Broken banners bearing the queen's crest hung tattered from the walls. Rebel sentries stood guard at heavy doors ahead, their plasma rifles pointed outward. Marcus signaled for silence. He crouched behind a pillar and observed. The guards shifted from foot to foot, unaware of how few protected them now. Azuren peeked around and gave him a small nod. Using hand signals, Marcus directed his squad. Alvarez and Sato would flank left. Nguyen would cover the right, and he and Azuren would move straight toward the door controls. At his signal, Alvarez and Sato slipped through side doors and crept behind the sentries. Nguyen held his ground on the right, rifle ready. Marcus and Azuren stepped forward to the control panel beside the doors. Marcus tapped Azuren's shoulder. She placed her clawed hand on the panel. The stone under her touch glowed faintly, and with a low rumble, the doors swung open. Inside, the throne room awaited. At its center, a raised dais held a sleek command chair where Rebel Commander Vex stood reviewing holomaps. His armor was dark and imposing, and he wore no helmet, revealing pale, cold eyes that scanned every corner. Around him were half a dozen officers, alert and tense. The squad fanned out, rifles raised. Marcus stepped forward. "Commander Vex," he called. His voice echoed in the vaulted space. The officers spun, weapons lifting. Azuren moved beside Marcus, regal and calm. "I return to claim my throne," she announced. Her voice carried through the hall, clear and authoritative. Vex's eyes narrowed. "Queen Azuren," he sneered, "you are a traitor to your people." He raised his own rifle. "Stand down, human dog, or we kill her." Marcus tightened his grip on his weapon. "We are not here to trade threats. We are here to end this rebellion." Vex barked an order. Two officers rushed forward. Alvarez and Sato opened fire, pinning them behind the dais. Nguyen covered Marcus and Azuren as they advanced. Plasma bolts screamed past, chipping stone and sending sparks across the floor. Azuren leaped onto the dais, claws extended. She disarmed Vex's officers before they could react, knocking their rifles away with swift, precise strikes. Vex leveled his rifle at her, but Marcus stepped between them. "No one else needs to die," he said firmly. Vex hesitated. "You think these humans can command my forces?" He spat on the floor. "Foolish alien." Azuren fixed him with her silver gaze. "Look around," she said softly. "Your rebellion costs lives of innocents. You betray our heritage." The officers lowered their weapons, uncertain. Marcus pressed the advantage. "We have the data. We know your plans to destroy the royal archives and enslave survivors." He held up a holopuck. "Stand down, and we will protect your people." Vex's shoulders slumped. He looked at his officers, who exchanged glances. One by one, they lowered their rifles. Vex sighed and dropped his weapon to the floor. Marcus exhaled. Azuren swept from the dais and allowed him to take the command chair beside hers. Together, they faced the humbled rebels. In that moment, human and alien stood united, ready to rebuild what war had torn apart. The fate of Karshar Prime shifted on that throne room floor as two soldiers, bound by honor and destiny, took the first steps toward peace. Lieutenant Marcus Hale stood beside Queen Azuren as the rebel officers knelt in surrender. The grand throne room felt quieter now, the tension easing with every lowered weapon. Marcus watched as Azuren turned to address the assembled soldiers. Her voice was calm but firm. Your rebellion has ended, she declared. Now you will rebuild this world with us. Below the dais, Sergeant Nguyen and Corporal Sato gathered the surrendered weapons. Sparks flew as they deactivated plasma rifles and power swords. Private Alvarez approached Marcus, holding out the holopuck that contained Vex's battle plans. Marcus nodded and handed it to Azuren. She tucked it into her ceremonial sash. In the back of the room, a group of children peered around broken pillars. They wore ragged clothes and dirt-smudged faces, eyes wide with both fear and hope. Marcus crouched and smiled gently at them. "It's safe now," he said softly. One small boy stepped forward and handed Marcus a wilted flower. Marcus accepted it with gratitude, tucking it into his uniform pocket. Azuren watched this exchange, and her silver eyes glinted with something like pride. She stepped down from the dais and approached the children. Kneeling, she brushed a lock of hair from a girl's forehead and spoke in a soft, ancient tongue. The girl's eyes lit up at the familiar words. Marcus frowned in confusion. He had never heard Azuren speak like that before. When Azuren stood again, the queen addressed Marcus. "These are my people," she said quietly. "They remember the old ways." Marcus placed a hand on her shoulder. "Then let me learn too." They left the throne room together, passing through torchlit halls lined with healing stations. Rebel medics and human field doctors worked side by side, tending to wounded soldiers and civilians. The air buzzed with cautious optimism. In one corner, Marcus saw the prisoner pod reopened. Inside lay supplies and medical equipment, gifts from human allies. He realized how far they had come. From enemies in the corridor to partners in healing. Outside, the ruined courtyard waited. Rubble had been cleared from the central plaza, and rebels and humans lifted stones together. Azuren raised her voice, calling for unity. Marcus echoed her call in galactic common. Workers paused and listened. Then, with renewed energy, they returned to rebuilding walls and planting new trees among the broken columns. As the sun set over Karshar Prime's shattered skyline, Marcus and Azuren climbed the steps to a high balcony. Below them, glowing lanterns lit pathways where refugees moved toward temporary camps. The queen placed her hand on the cool stone railing. "This world is scared," she said, "but it will heal." Marcus nodded, thinking of Earth and of home. "It will," he promised, "and we will help it." He glanced at her scaled profile, illuminated by lantern light. In that shared moment, soldier and sovereign found a fragile peace, one built on trust, respect, and the unlikeliest of friendships. High above the city, the twin moons rose together. On the balcony, a human and an alien queen stood side by side, ready to guide two worlds toward a brighter dawn. Lieutenant Marcus Hale returned to the command hub early the next morning, the air still cool with dawn's first light. He found Queen Azuren standing before a large holomap, her silver scales glinting softly in the pale glow. Around them, human engineers and alien artisans worked side by side to restore power to the city grid. Azuren turned when she saw him. "The repairs are ahead of schedule," she said, "but we face a new challenge. Pockets of rebel loyalists refuse to surrender." Marcus studied the map. Red dots marked scattered bands of fighters hiding in the old industrial sector. "They have supply caches there," he noted. "If we don't act soon, they could regroup." She nodded. "I will leave a small force. Will you join me?" Marcus clenched his jaw. He wanted to protect her, not risk her safety. Yet he knew she trusted him. "Of course," he replied. An hour later, they moved out with a mixed unit of human soldiers and alien guards. The streets were quiet now, but Marcus felt tension underfoot. He led the column down cracked avenues toward the old factories where the loyalists held out. As they approached a blast-damaged gate, a lone sentry challenged them in a shaky voice. Azuren raised her hand and spoke in her ancient tongue. The soldier lowered his weapon, eyes wide in shock. "My queen," he whispered, "you return." Marcus saw other fighters emerge, dozens of them, ragged but determined. Their leader, A grizzled alien warrior named Thurek stepped forward. His armor was dented, and his left arm hung in a sling. "You betrayed us," he growled at Azuren. "You sided with humans." Azuren's gaze was steady. "I sided with my people's future," she said. She stepped off the path so Marcus could stand beside her. "We rebuild together, or we die divided." Thurek spat on the ground. "I will not bow to a human's friend." Marcus took a breath. He raised his voice in common. "I fought beside her because I believe in this world's peace. You and I both serve the same cause, the survival of your people." The loyalists tensed, weapons aimed. Suddenly, a distant rumble shook the ground. Dust fell from crumbling buildings. Thurek glanced behind him and cursed. "The structures are failing," he said. "We must evacuate or be buried alive." Azuren's eyes softened. "Then we save lives first." She turned to Thurek. "Join us. Help guide your people to safety." Reluctantly, Thurek nodded. He barked orders, and the loyalists moved into formation behind the mixed force. Marcus directed human engineers to secure escape routes while alien guards covered the rear. They led hundreds of refugees through narrow alleys, the old factories groaning with each step. Dust clouds rose at every footfall. Marcus stayed close to Azuren, ready to intercept any falling debris. When a support beam cracked overhead, she summoned her strength and held it aloft long enough for the last family to pass beneath. Once all were safe outside the danger zone, Thurek approached and clasped Azuren's forearm in respect. "You saved us," he said. "You earned my loyalty." Marcus smiled at Azuren. Together, they watched the sunrise burn away the dust. The city would rebuild, not just its walls but its unity. And in that moment, a human soldier and his alien queen knew they had overcome the final resistance by saving lives, not by force. Lieutenant Marcus Hale returned to the command hub early the next morning, the air still cool with dawn's first light. He found Queen Azuren standing before a large holomap, her silver scales glinting softly in the pale glow. Around them, human engineers and alien artisans worked side by side to restore power to the city grid. Azuren turned when she saw him. "The repairs are ahead of schedule," she said, "but we face a new challenge. Pockets of rebel loyalists refuse to surrender." Marcus studied the map. Red dots mark scattered bands of fighters hiding in the old industrial sector. "They have supply catches there," he noted. "If we don't act soon, they could regroup." She nodded. "I will leave a small force. Will you join me?" Marcus clenched his jaw. He wanted to protect her, not risk her safety. Yet he knew she trusted him. "Of course," he replied. An hour later, they moved out with a mixed unit of human soldiers and alien guards. The streets were quiet now, but Marcus felt tension underfoot. He led the column down cracked avenues toward the old factories where the loyalists held out. As they approached a blast-damaged gate, a lone sentry challenged them in a shaky voice. Azuren raised her hand and spoke in her ancient tongue. The soldier lowered his weapon, eyes wide in shock. "My queen," he whispered, "you return." Marcus saw other fighters emerge, dozens of them, ragged but determined. Their leader, a grizzled alien warrior named Thurek, stepped forward. His armor was dented, and his left arm hung in a sling. "You betrayed us," he growled at Azuren. "You sided with humans." Azuren's gaze was steady. "I sided with my people's future," she said. She stepped off the path so Marcus could stand beside her. "We rebuild together, or we die divided." Thurek spat on the ground. "I will not bow to a human's friend." Marcus took a breath. He raised his voice in common. "I fought beside her because I believe in this world's peace. You and I both serve the same cause, the survival of your people." The loyalists tensed, weapons aimed. Suddenly, a distant rumble shook the ground. Dust fell from crumbling buildings. Thurek glanced behind him and cursed. "The structures are failing," he said. "We must evacuate or be buried alive." Azuren's eyes softened. Then we save lives first. She turned to Theric. Join us. Help guide your people to safety. Reluctantly, Theric nodded. He barked orders, and the Loyalists moved into formation behind the mixed force. Marcus directed human engineers to secure escape routes, while alien guards covered the rear. They led hundreds of refugees through narrow alleys, the old factories groaning with each step. Dust clouds rose at every footfall. Marcus stayed close to Azurin, ready to intercept any falling debris. When a support beam cracked overhead, she summoned her strength and held it aloft long enough for the last family to pass beneath. Once all were safe outside the danger zone, Theric approached and clasped Azurin's forearm in respect. "You saved us," he said. "You earn my loyalty." Marcus smiled at Azurin. Together, they watched the sunrise burn away the dust. The city would rebuild, not just its walls but its unity. And in that moment, a human soldier and his alien queen knew they had overcome the final resistance by saving lives, not by force.